Hollywood shines like a diamond on the surface. Its streets are lined with giant billboards. Its award shows are filled with flashing cameras. And its stars seem larger than life. Blake Lively has always been one of those stars. Her rise began with the hit television series Gossip Girl, where she captured the hearts of millions playing Serena van der Woodsen. Audiences admired her charm, her beauty, and her effortless sense of style from that moment. Blake Lively was not just an actress. She was a cultural figure. Fashion magazines featured her on covers. Red carpets awaited her presence. Designers wanted her to wear their gowns. Her career moved from television into films, and she proved she could hold her own in different genres. Yet Hollywood is not only made of premieres and applause. The same spotlight that lifts celebrities to the highest peaks can also cast dark shadows. Fame can be unforgiving. Every mistake is magnified. Every rumor becomes a headline, and every association, whether fair or not, becomes a story. The bigger the star, the heavier the burden. Blake Lively has always carried that burden with grace. Her interviews are polished. Her public image is carefully maintained, and her fans adore her for it. But no one in Hollywood can fully escape the storms that arrive without warning. In this glittering world, co-stars often become more than just colleagues. They become linked by the projects they share, by the publicity tours they attend, and by the endless photographs that capture them. Side by side, sometimes these partnerships bring lifelong friendships. Other times, they bring unexpected complications. In the case of Blake Lively and her co-star, connection would one day extend far beyond the film. Set would reach into a courtroom where reputations were tested and futures hung in the balance. The story of the co-star begins like so many others in Hollywood, filled with ambition, hope, and the dream of stardom. The industry welcomed them with opportunities, small at first, but growing bigger as they proved their talent. Working alongside Blake Lively was supposed to be a turning point, a chance to shine in front of global audiences. Instead, that partnership will become a doorway into a very different narrative, one shaped not by scripts or premieres, but by legal filings and public judgment. This is where glamour meets the shadows. This is where the Hollywood dream collides with harsh reality. And this is where our story begins. Every great story in Hollywood has two sides: the shining lead who carries the spotlight, and the supporting star whose fate becomes tied to theirs. For Blake Lively, the co-star in this saga was not just another name on a film poster. They were someone who shared the same screen, the same press events, and at one time the same applause. The co-star entered Hollywood with all the usual hopes. Their early career was built on persistence, long auditions, and the slow climb that so many actors know well. Small roles in television shows and minor appearances in films gradually earned them recognition. People began to notice their talent. Agents began to make calls. Producers began to see potential. This is how Hollywood careers are born, step by step, until one breakthrough role changes everything. That breakthrough came when the co-star landed a project with Blake Lively, sharing scenes with her men. Immediate visibility. Fans of Blake would naturally pay attention to anyone on screen with her. Gossip blogs began to mention their name. Red carpet photographers called out for them during premieres. It was the kind of exposure that could lift an actor to the next level of stardom. For a while, it seemed like a golden opportunity. But fame in Hollywood is never a smooth road. Alongside opportunity came pressure. Every word spoken in interviews was dissected. Every photograph taken and event was analyzed. For a while, the co-star seemed to handle it well, yet behind the surface, storms were beginning to form. Reports began to circulate about personal and professional troubles. They were not clear at first. Some came from anonymous whispers, some from vague social media posts. At first, fans ignored them. After all, rumors are common in Hollywood. But soon the whispers grew louder. Entertainment outlets started asking questions, and then the first confirmed reports of legal involvement began to surface. The connection to Blake Lively magnified the issue instantly. Had the co-star been working alone, the story may have stayed small, but the moment her name was attached, the spotlight grew brighter. Headlines could not resist framing it as Blake Lively's co-star in trouble. The association created drama that Blake herself had never invited, yet could not avoid. The co-star was suddenly caught between two worlds. On one side was her career and the chance to rise higher in Hollywood. On the other side was a growing legal battle that threatened everything. The situation placed them under scrutiny in ways they had never imagined. Fans questioned their integrity. Studios began to reconsider future projects, and online debates raged over whether the co-star was simply unlucky or whether their troubles revealed something deeper. By the time the case reached the courtroom, the co-star was no longer just an actor fighting for a role. They had become a figure in a public legal drama. The very thing they once dreamed of recognition had now turned into something they could not escape. The co-star was not just living their story anymore. They were living the headlines. And in Hollywood, once your name becomes a headline, the story no longer belongs only to you. It belongs to the public, to the media, and to the endless conversations online. It was here that the drama reached its boiling point, setting the stage for the explosive moment when the judge would deliver a decision that no one could ignore. Courtrooms have their own rhythm. They're not filled with flashing cameras or red carpets. There is no background music or polished script. Instead, There is silence, tension, and a weight of decisions that can shape a life forever for Blake Lively's co-star. The courtroom became the stage they never wanted, but could not escape on the morning of a hearing. Reporters gathered outside waiting for any sign of movement. They knew a ruling was coming, and the smallest detail could become breaking news. Fans crowded around the courthouse, some holding signs of support, others holding phones ready to capture anything for social media. The atmosphere outside felt more like a premiere than a legal proceeding inside. However, the mood was very different. The co-star entered with their legal team. The air was heavy with expectation. Every step echoed in the quiet room. Supporters sat on one side of the benches. Critics sat on the other. All eyes followed as the judge prepared to hear the arguments. The lawyers spoke, carefully presenting evidence and explanations. Each side believed they had reason to win, but in the end, it would not be the lawyers who carried the weight. It would be the judge. Blake Lively was not on trial. She was not seated at the defense table, and she was not called to testify, yet her name lingered over proceedings like a shadow. Every headline outside included her name. Every tweet about the hearing mentioned her, even in absence her presence was undeniable. Such as the nature of Hollywood fame. As the hearing continued, the tension grew thicker. The co-star sat quietly listening to every word, trying not to reveal too much emotion. The judge asked pointed questions, probing the arguments, testing the strength of each claim. Lawyers shuffled papers, whispered strategies, and tried to remain calm. But everyone in the room knew that one ruling could change everything. Finally, the moment came. The judge delivered the decision in a firm, clear voice. The co-star's request was rejected. It was not the answer they had hoped for. It was not the outcome their supporters wanted. The rejection landed like a thunderclap. The co-star lowered their eyes. The lawyers scribbled notes. The supporters gasped. The critics whispered. And outside the courthouse, phones lit up as news alerts began to spread. Within minutes, the rejection was everywhere. Breaking news banners ran across television screens. Entertainment websites pushed instant notifications. Social media users typed furiously, creating hashtags that spread faster than wildfire. The courtroom decision had traveled across the globe before the co-star had even left the building. For the co-star, this was a crushing blow. For Blake Lively, it was another storm to endure despite not being directly involved. For Hollywood, it was another reminder that drama does not end when the director yells cut. Sometimes the greatest drama plays out not on the silver screen, but in the quiet tension of a courtroom. Legal battles in Hollywood often feel like a foreign language to fans. Court filings are filled with technical words and procedures that seem far removed from daily life. Yet when a celebrity or their co-star faces a legal moment, the public wants answers. What does this ruling really mean? Why did the judge reject the request? And what comes next? In this case, the co-star Blake Lively had entered the courtroom with hope. They had asked the judge to consider a motion that could have helped their side move forward. Perhaps it was a request to dismiss a claim. Perhaps it was an attempt to reduce the pressure of the case. Whatever the specific legal tool, it was meant to give the co-star a fighting chance. But the judge looked at the arguments, weighed the evidence, and decided to reject it. The outsiders. This sounded final. But in the legal world, it was not the end of the story. Instead, it was a setback, a major one. Rejection meant that the co-star could not take the shortcut. They hoped they would now have to face the longer, harder road ahead. Legal experts who spoke to media outlets explained it in simple terms. They said that a rejection like this often means the judge believes there is enough weight in the case to move forward. It does not mean the co-star is guilty. It does not mean they've lost everything. It simply means the court will not allow them to avoid the next steps. For fans, this was both confusing and dramatic. Some thought the co-star was finished. Others insisted it was only round one. What made this case unique was the presence of Blake Lively's name. She was not facing charges. She was not filing motions, yet every headline tied her to the drama. The legal maze was not only about rules and evidence, it was about reputation. In Hollywood, the court of law is powerful, but the court of public opinion can be even more damaging. The judge rejected the co-star, but fans around the world were busy making their own judgments too. The rejection also sparked new questions. What strategies would the lawyers use next? Would there be an appeal? Could the co-star repair their image while the case dragged on? Or would this be the moment that defined their career? These questions made the legal process feel like a real-life cliffhanger, a series of chapters that the world would keep turning to see unfold. And so the legal maze was more than just a courtroom. It became a stage watched by millions, a stage where every filing became news, every motion became a headline, and every ruling shaped the way fans viewed both the co-star and Blake Lively herself. The ruling inside the courtroom was important, but it was what happened outside that truly transformed the case into a cultural storm. The moment the judge delivered a rejection, every major entertainment outlet scrambled to break the story. First, reporters who had been waiting on the courthouse steps raced to send updates to their editors. Photographers clicked away as the co-star left the building. Social media managers pushed headlines in real time. Within minutes, television screens across the country carried the words Blake Lively's co-star rejected by judge. The framing was dramatic. Some outlets used the phrase devastating blow. Others called it a stunning twist in an already tense saga. Even mainstream news programs that rarely focus on celebrity trials dedicated segments to it. That is the power of fame. A single ruling that might have passed quietly in another case became a global headline. Because of the connection to Blake Lively, magazines quickly assigned writers to draft features, blogs speculated on hidden details, talk show hosts prepared their monologues. Each version of the story came with its own spin. Some writers portrayed the co-star as a figure under unfair scrutiny. Others emphasized the seriousness of the rejection and the possible consequences. Few pieces stopped to remind readers that Blake herself was not directly on trial. Instead, her name was used again and again because it guaranteed attention to Firestorm was not only about news coverage, it was also about the way headlines shaped public opinion. Many fans only saw the bold titles without reading the details. For them, the story became simplified. The co-star had been rejected. Blake Lively was connected to the co-star, therefore the drama now belonged to her as well. In this way, the media coverage blurred the line between fact and perception. Morning shows debated the ruling, evening programs invited legal analysts to explain the impact. Entertainment channels produced special segments with dramatic background music. Each detail, no matter how small, was presented as if it were the next twist in a blockbuster film. The more dramatic the coverage, the more people tuned in, and the cycle fed itself. By the end of the week, the media Firestorm had turned a courtroom setback into one of the most talked about celebrity stories of the year. It was no longer just a case in court, it was a spectacle. And in Hollywood, spectacle can shape reputations just as powerfully as a movie role. If the media Firestorm was the spark, then social media was the fuel that turned this case into a roaring blaze. Within hours of the ruling, hashtags began trending across Twitter, now called X. Users created taglines that mixed shock humor and outrage. Some fans used simple supporter tags for Blake Lively, while others crafted dramatic slogans defending the co-star. A single tweet could reach millions within minutes, and the conversation spread faster than the official news reports. On Instagram, influencers reposted headlines and added their own commentary. Some fashion accounts posted photos of Blake from red carpets and added captions about how her elegance was being unfairly dragged into a storm unrelated to her. Others focused on the co-star, creating long posts about just the second chances and the way Hollywood treats rising talent. The comment sections became battlegrounds where supporters and critics clashed. Meanwhile, TikTok creators took the story and transformed it into viral content. Some acted out skits imagining what the courtroom must have looked like. Others stitched clips of Blake Lively interviews with dramatic captions like, "What is she thinking now?" Short videos speculated about the fallout gathered millions of views. Overnight, memes spread like wildfire. One popular image showed a mock movie poster with the title "Courtroom Chaos" featuring Blake on one side and her co-star on the other. As if the case were a blockbuster drama itself, YouTube became home to longer breakdowns. Reaction channels paused on screenshots of news reports and offered commentary. Some defended Blake and reminded viewers that she was not the one standing before the judge. Others argued the co-star was being targeted unfairly. Podcast hosts dedicated entire episodes to analyzing what the rejection meant for Hollywood power structures. Each new piece of content kept the topic alive and gave fans more material to debate. The social media storm did more than entertain, it shaped public perception. Many people never read the actual court filings. Instead, they formed their opinions from memes, short clips, and viral posts. The line between fact and speculation blurred until they became one and the same. Online debates grew so intense that some celebrities even chose to step back from posting, fearing they might be dragged into the chaos simply for commenting. By the end of the first week after the ruling, the online storm was impossible to ignore. Even those who were not fans of Blake Lively or a co-star found themselves drawn into the conversation. The case had transformed into digital theater, complete with heroes, villains, and endless plot twists. Social media had turned one courtroom rejection into a global phenomenon. Every celebrity story eventually transforms into a battle of opinions, and this case was no different. Once the ruling was announced, the online world split into two loud and passionate camps. On one side was Team Blake loyal fans who had admired her since the days of Gossip Girl, came rushing to her defense. They pointed out again and again that Blake Lively herself was not standing trial. They reminded everyone that she had built her career